It's Purim. The class is in memory of Jared Orchin. The story of the Megillah is the story of the Jewish people in nowadays. Shushan was like New York City. Life in Shushan for the Jews was amazing. The Jews had celebrated and enjoyed democracy. They can be Jewish, democracy, whatever it was in that time. They can practice their religion. The Persian government believed in supporting every nation to observe their religion. This is the government that later allowed to build the second temple. When the king, we know the Megillah starts with the king made a big feast, he invited the Jews there. Everybody was invited. Jews were invited too. And if you wanted kosher food, you will serve kosher food. Kirtzon ish va'ish, according to the will of every person. It was amazing. Now, on top of it, think about it. Mordechai became a minister by the king. Before that, the Medrash says that Mordechai was an officer in the army of Achashverosh, together with Haman. Haman was an officer and he was an officer. A few years later, Esther became the queen. Think about it. The first lady is a Jewish girl. What could be better and more safe for a nation in exile than the first lady is Jewish, and the greatest leader of the Jewish people, the head of the Sanhedrin, is actually a minister with the king. And you enjoy every freedom of religion. You're invited to the parties. You get equal opportunity. Everybody treats you like equal citizens. Great. Life is great. It was good. Everything was good. And when everything was good, it turned so bad. Haman walks in, becomes powerful, and in a short time, gets angry with the Jews, gets angry with Mordechai, wants to get rid of Mordechai, then wants to get rid with the Jews, goes into the king, and Achashverosh says, go ahead, do it. You want to annihilate the Jews? Go ahead. Like this, in 1 second. And it was a decree that was never so bad before that on the Jewish people. The whole nation, there was nowhere to run away. Achashverosh, the kingdom was, they say 127 provinces. It means to say he was a superpower. He couldn't run away anywhere. And they decreed that in one day, everyone can go out, kill his Jewish neighbor, and take his possession. That's the best motivator. See your neighbor has a nice house? It's yours, friend. Just do what you're supposed to do, and it's going to be yours. And there's no way to run away. This is why the minister, one of the biggest ministers, is a Jew, a rabbi, and the first lady is Jewish. And at the same time, happens such a decree. And while the Jews enjoyed this biggest feeling of safety and security, and they were comfortable, and they were a part of society, and they were the lawyers and the doctors and the movers and the shakers, everything. What Mordechai did? Mordechai heard about the decree. He went out, he got dressed with sack and cloth. He put on a sack as clothing. He came out to the center of the city and he cried. He didn't go to the palace, because you're not allowed to go to the palace like this. He didn't have any intention to go to the palace. He wanted to go to the center of the city and to wake up whom? The Jews. The Jews of Shushan, who were so assimilated and so well loved by the community. Tell them, guys, in 11 months from now, it's going to be a terrible decree. He was one of the very first people who found out about it. Esther, now, what would you do if you are a minister by the king and your niece, your cousin is the first lady? What everybody would do? He would first make a meeting of all the movers and shakers of the community and try to use their connections to see if it's going to work. To make connections to get an audience with the king, try to change things. Mordechai didn't do it. Mordechai went and started to cry out to the Jews and says, my friend, we have to do tshuva. We have to repent. We have to go closer to God. When Esther heard that Mordechai is making noise in town, and she sent a messenger to find out what is happening, Mordechai told her, oh, by the way, this is what's happening, and go and beg the king to save us. But he didn't initiate it. Because Mordechai knew that if something like this happened, it must be that we have a problem with our relationship with God. It's not just a problem with our relationship with the king, with the kingdom. It's a problem with the relationship with God. Then he gathered the Jews. And when he told Esther what he wants to do, in the beginning Esther didn't want to go to the king. She said, I was not summoned to the king for 30 days. Mordechai told her, you have to go. He told her, no matter what, that's our chance. You have to risk your life and go to the king. Because if she wasn't summoned to the king, it wasn't just a matter, it wouldn't be nice to her. If you show up by the king without permission, you might be killed. She decided to go. But while she decided to go, she tells Mordechai, I will go with one condition. If you gather all the Jews if you gather all the Jews in Shushan and you make them not to eat and not to sleep and not to eat and not to drink for 3 days. That's what he told her. And she says, Mordechai says, Esther says, and I myself will fast for 3 days and 3 nights, and then I will go to the king. Then the question is, she'll go to the king after 3 days of not eating and drinking? How she's going to look? How she's going to look if she's going to fast for 3 days? She's supposed to find favor in the king's eye, and she's going to fast. But she also understood that to find favor in the king's eye, she needs to find favor first in the eyes of the king of all kings. God has to be on your side. That she said, I am better off to fast for 3 days. Even I'm not going to look so good, maybe God will help me be on my side. That's what she did. She was fasting 3 days. Mordechai did what Esther told them. He gathered all the Jews and they were fasting. What Mordechai did something that's not written in the Megillah. It's written in the Medrash. That Mordechai gathered, in top of the regular Jewish people that he gathered thousands of Jewish children, all the Jewish children in Shushan. The Jewish children in Shushan, not all of them went to Cheder. Many of them went to public school, probably most of them. Mordechai gathered them and he made them learn Torah with him. And they understood the gravity of the decree. They wanted to join them on their own to fast with them. And the mothers came to give them food. They said, we are not eating and drinking. We are with Mordechai for life and for death. And then came the night, the famous night. Esther went to the king. And the king asked her, what do you want, Esther? She says, I want you to summon Haman and me to a special party. For a drink. Haman did it. And the king did it. Achashverosh did it. And at the party he asked her, what do you want, Esther? He says, if you really want me to tell you what I want, we'll do the same party tomorrow night with Haman and you, and then I'll tell you what I want. Fine. Haman goes home, he's all excited. Achashverosh goes home and he lays in bed and he thinks to himself, what is going on here? Why she summoned me for another meeting with Haman? Maybe they plan to kill us. He couldn't sleep. The Medrash tells us, the king, when it starts the Megillah that says that the king couldn't sleep, that's tok foshelness. That's the beginning. That's the turning point of the miracle. Why is the turning point of the miracle? Because he couldn't sleep. Why he couldn't sleep? Because God didn't allow him to sleep. Because God couldn't sleep. What means God couldn't sleep? God said to his angels, the Medrash says, what is the sound of the little sheep that I hear downstairs crying? That the angels told them, it's your Jewish children who are crying and praying because they want you to save them. That the learning Torah of the Jewish children was the turning point. It's written in the Medrash, at that point God tore off the decree, and he says we are changing plans. We are he will save the Jewish people. And that started, the king couldn't sleep, and Haman came in the morning. He told the king the king also told them to take Mordechai for a ride. The next night, Haman was already hanged. The turning point of this miracle was the 22,000 Jewish children that Mordechai gathered in Shushan, and they brought them back to Judaism and they learned Torah with them. That was the turning point of the whole story. Then what I mean to say with it, that many people don't realize what Purim is. It sounds like everybody's eating Gomen, they're getting dressed up, it's beautiful. But really, the story of Purim is the story of today. The Jewish people enjoyed a very good exile. Life was very good. And in a minute, again, everything turned around. And what Mordechai understood is, it's not about the connections with the government. This is not going to help us. We need to strengthen our connection with God. And then the government will turn around. Because you cannot control anti-Semitism outside. Even if you talk about it, and you sue them, and you can clean up the Facebook, this is not going to help. And you need some bigger intervention from God. And that's why before Purim we have a fast day. It's the fast of Esther, the day before Purim. It's a miracle. What's the point of fast? We are not suffering now. Why we ever need to fast? Because to understand that the miracle came only because we returned to God. Only because we woke up, our Judaism woke up. You know, when Haman came to the king, you know what he told them? He told them, these people are sleeping from the mitzvahs. They gave up, and God doesn't care for them anymore. They're not religious. They don't care for God. They think the moment we relied on our own power, that was the moment of a problem. We thought we are safe. Nothing can happen to us. Then what happens when you rely on yourself? You tell God, I don't need your help. I'm good. And that's the moment God says, oh, you're good? Okay, I'm good too. And that's a big problem. And when you lose the protection from God, all the dogs jump on you, and you're in big trouble. And when you wake up and you realize and you turn to God and says, oh, I need your protection, more than ever, then God comes back into the picture and everything works out. And that's the lesson to us.